I don't know that I really need to introduce the guy I'm sitting next to. I think most of you know who he is. There you go. Look at that. I know. Mr. Steve Forbes. I'll just read a little bit of intro about him. He's editor-in-chief of Forbes Media. I think we all know it's one of the great publishing brands of our time. The flagship publication, which is Forbes, obviously, it is the industry's and the country's leading business magazine. There are more than 900,000 subscribers to it. And if you combine that with Forbes Asia and the company's licensee editions of it, they reach a worldwide audience of more than 6 million readers. So he has a really good idea of what's going on in the business world, the financial markets, etc. He's the author of several books, including The Freedom Manifesto, Why Free Markets Are Moral and Big Government Isn't, Power, Ambition, and Glory. That always gets a rise out, some applause. The Stunning Parallels Between Great Leaders of the Ancient World and Today and the Lessons You Can Learn. He also wrote The Flat Tax Revolution, Using a Postcard to Abolish the IRS, which I'd like to see that postcard. Right. So, and several others. And I think that, I first saw Steve speak at Joe Polish's event in New York City, and Peter Diamandis was interviewing you, and I was really fascinated, I think primarily because you were talking about money and how money works and markets, and this is information that a lot of us, admittedly myself as well, we never really stopped to think about how does money work? What really is wealth? How does the Fed work? And you were talking about that and how businesses evolved, and I just found it fascinating, so I wanted to bring you to the audience here. So I'm going to start off with a few questions just to kind of pop the cork a little bit, but please be thinking of questions you'd like to ask this man. He's incredibly smart, knows a lot about what's going on in the business world, politics, financial world, so make sure you be writing down the questions because I want to mostly give you the opportunity to talk with him. So one of the questions, we were sitting in the green room, I guess, or whatever, and I said, I want to ask you this question, but I feel like it's a stupid question. The question is, what is money? So why don't we start there?
Well, it's not a stupid question because the Federal Reserve and other central bankers don't realize what money is. And that's just one of the reasons why we've got the crisis around the world today. And part of the problem is when we're all interested in money, but when you start to say things like monetary policy, Federal Reserve, foreign exchange rates, quantitative easing, and the like, we know it's important, but the eyes begin to glaze over, especially in the early afternoon. And so this is not 50 Shades of Gray, but in terms of instant interest.
I think it's 200 shades of gray, and then some.
But money simply makes buying and selling easier. In the old days, we had barter, which was very inefficient. If I sold an ad in Forbes, how would I get paid 3,000 years ago? Perhaps with a herd of goats. Let's say I wanted to buy some iPads for our writers. I'm being a little facetious here. So I go to the Apple store with my herd of goats. The store owner says he doesn't want goats, he wants sheep. So I have to figure out how to swap the goats for sheep. Perhaps hire a sheep herder to make sure the wolves don't eat the sheep. And the sheep herder wants to be paid in wine. I've got red wine, he wants white wine. So it's very, very inefficient. If we had barter today, imagine trying to deposit a pig in an ATM or withdraw a cow. So money evolved from the marketplace. It wasn't invented by government. First with coins that had intrinsic value. So even though you wouldn't use gold or silver, to eat or do fuel or anything like that, it had intrinsic value, so it made it easier to do buying and selling. Now today, it simply ellipses on a computer, piece of paper, token coins, but money measures value. If you understand that, you're ahead of 99% of the economics profession. It measures value the way scales measure weight, clocks measure time, or rulers measure length. It measures value. And so it's like a claim on products and services. You go to the restaurant, you check your coat, you get a coat check. Money is like a coat check. So instead of getting cows or goats when you make a transaction, You determine what you get in return for it. Makes investing a lot easier. You don't have to keep 5,000 chickens for your 401k. It just makes life a lot easier. But it works when it has a fixed value, if it measures value. And just play a mind game for a moment. Imagine if the Federal Reserve did to watches and clocks what it does to the dollar, changes the value all the time. Imagine if you had 60 minutes an hour one day, 48 minutes the next, 92 minutes the day after. It'd be chaotic. But that's what's happened when you have money fluctuating like this. So imagine baking a cake if you have a floating clock that says bake the batter 40 minutes. And you have to determine, is that nominal minutes, inflation adjusted minutes? Is it a Florida minute, a New York minute, a Mexican minute? It would be chaotic, but that's what we have today. And so when you have the fluctuating value of money, if it has fixed value, then you can focus on investing in the future. I mean, when you make an investment, may be months, it may be years before you get a real return. But if you don't know what you're going to get paid back in, is it going to be a 100-cent dollar, 50-cent dollar, $1.10? You get less investment. That's why we've had this stagnation in investment. One of the reasons why we've had this stagnation in investment, you don't know what you're going to get paid back in. And so then what the Fed has also done, it gets away from the definition of money, but it results from it, since they think that manipulating money stimulates the economy. It'd be like a restaurant thinking that if they create more coat checks, that would stimulate the production of more coats, and that would get more customers in the restaurant. So when you hear the Fed, it's sort of like the coat check theory of economics. They have it backwards. If we create more rulers, that'll stimulate the production of more buildings. Well, when you put it like that, you realize how stupid that is. But that's what these people, that's their mindset. It goes back to the Great Depression. Won't bore you with the history of it, but they think that money is like the cart before the horse. They don't realize money, in effect, reflects what we do in the marketplace. It's like a claim on products and services. So it's money in itself is not wealth, it measures wealth. It makes those buying and selling easier. And when you have fluctuating value, just one statistic if you want to impress people at a cocktail party, currency trading, when we had the dollar fixed to gold and other currencies are fixed to the dollar, we had that from the 1790s to the 1970s. You didn't have much currency trading other than exchanging your money for other money when you're traveling, because it was all fixed in value. But today, because it has these enormous fluctuations each day, the currency trading today, volume, is now over $5.5 trillion a day. A day.
Just
more
trading,
than stocks.
just trading money.
Just trading. More than stocks, more than bonds. And think of the immense brain power that now goes into currency trading, an activity we shouldn't have to do, like trading minutes in a clock. And instead of being applied to productive things, they're just currency trading. And when you have this uncertainty of value, time horizons shrink, which is why Wall Street's obsessed with flash trading, trying to get a nanosecond to get an advantage. So instead of looking out 10, 20, 30 years, time horizons shrink, which hurts the economy. We saw this in a very different way in the 1970s. So bottom line is, money makes buying and selling easier. That's how we make progress. We do it billions of times a day. And it also is, if you think of it like that claim check, it's a claim on products and services. It has no value in and of itself. It's based on trust. And one of the things that happens over time, if you can't trust the money, you cease trusting each other, which is one of the reasons why we have a lot of social problems today here and around the world. When you have uncertain money, it's like acid. It eats at social trust. It goes beyond just the daily transactions we have with each other.
So is the Fed our friend, our foe? And
no, we should send the Fed to North Korea, but no. But no, they don't understand. They don't understand their function should be to keep the value of the dollar stable. You know, in the Commerce Department, they have an agency buried in there called the Bureau of Weights and Measures, buried in the Commerce Department. Make sure precisely that the time clocks don't change, precisely lengths. So nobody knows it's there because everything is fixed. Well, that's what the Fed should become, part of the Bureau of Weights and Measures, because the dollar should be fixed in value, and they should be around to deal with the occasional panic, and that's it. Trying to guide the economy is like the coat checks in a restaurant. Just does a lot of mischief. And you're not economists, so this won't sound heresy, but you ask an economist, if you don't like him or her, name one time that monetary policy has been positive in terms of sustainable long-term growth. Name one instance, and they might say, well, look at the early 80s when we conquered the terrible inflation. Well, who created the inflation? So when they do good things, it's usually cleaning up the messes they created in the first place.